Hi, welcome back to my channel. Don't forget to hit subscribe, and for today's topic, I'm going to discuss feminism, the light and the dark sides of it, and how you can navigate it well using your intuition. So first of all, I'm going to start with the light side, and my mom was a feminist, so I just want to say up front that I was raised by an amazing mom. She taught me so many things, and I think feminism is a wonderful thing. Being educated as a woman is a wonderful thing. Going to work is a wonderful thing. I think where things can get a little bit dark for us women is that sometimes when we go off to work and we become educated, we get hit hard by some double standards. For example, we're still expected to be mothers and caregivers when we get married, much more so than men are around the home. We can really take over all of those domestic responsibilities without even thinking about it and negotiating it with men. And that's something that I think very early on women need to talk about in their relationships with potential partners. Like if we do partner together, who is taking care of the house? If we want to have children, who is taking care of that responsibility? Who is taking the time off work? Or do we get daycare? What are the options? What are the best options? Who is giving up their career temporarily? Sometimes people are self-employed and they're home during the day and they have that opportunity to look after the kids, and that's amazing when that option is available. But if you both have to work outside the home, then you may have to come up with other options. And even if you're lucky enough to work from home, having a child with needs at home may not be an ideal option, as we've learned during COVID. So that's one scenario where we can kind of get hit hard by feminism. I'm not saying that it's a bad thing that we can go out and work and do all these wonderful things and become educated. That's an amazing thing. And sometimes we'll just have a lot more work at home to go on top of that. And it's expected of us now that we have to earn an income, even though we don't tend to earn as much as men in the same job title. So we just have to work harder for our freedom. So that's one dark side, but I would never take it back. I would never go back to the way it was in the 1950s. I would not say that at all. But how do you navigate that as a woman is that you have to use your intuition and go through these issues carefully with your partner and set up the agreements early on in the relationship. And if it's really difficult to have those conversations, then maybe you might want to consider picking different options in life. You may reconsider, is having a child really the right thing if we can't agree on how we're going to take responsibility for the child? Or is it really the right thing to get married and share space with somebody if we can't agree on domestic duties? Like, these things need to be thought about before you just rush in unconsciously into a relationship, as a lot of us do. And that's kind of where we get hit hard as women. I think other ways that we get hit hard that come along with the income is that when we go out on dates, we're expected to pay sometimes, or we're expected to split 50-50. And there's nothing wrong with that when a woman maybe does earn more than the gentleman. But the problem with that is that men don't have to invest very much in women anymore to have a date. They don't have to do very much at all, potentially, in order to get things that they want. Like if they want intimacy early on. The thing is, now we're expected to all be free. We're expected to be unconventional and not tied to religion necessarily. I mean, that seems to be the trend that is going on in society, is that more and more people are leaning towards spirituality or even go as far as atheism. And I'm not saying that that's totally a bad thing. I think people need to believe what they feel comfortable believing. I have nothing against religion either. I think we just all have to find what we feel comfortable believing on that spectrum. The problem is when you go towards the more secular spectrum is that men can expect a lot from women in relationships really early on. They want you to dive in and become intimate. And basically, if you get intimate early, what can happen is the guy drops off and disappears after you've been intimate and after you've had that rush of hormones as a woman, and it's not a very fun experience when men kind of disappear after that. So that's another issue with feminism and having our freedom in terms of our sexuality, is that it can come at us really, really fast through men's expectations. And then if we don't manage our emotions carefully or manage our bodies carefully, we can end up being hurt. And the way to manage that as well is you have to be very conscious each moment and decide what's right for your emotions and what's right for your body. When is the right timing? And people can come up with timelines of all sorts and say, wait until you're married or wait until the 5th date or whatever. I would say, like, you really have to decide that as a woman, like what feels comfortable to you. If it feels comfortable to wait till marriage, then wait till marriage. If it feels comfortable after the 3rd date, then maybe that's when it's appropriate for you. But the earlier on it happens, the more likely you're going to feel very emotional, and then the guy will disappear. It's just the odds are higher when you move more quickly that you'll get hurt, I would say. And I think that's a pretty fair assessment. So having said that, the good sides of feminism is that we do have these free rights and freedoms. We just have to manage it well as women. We need to be aware of how we feel. We need to be aware of our physical body and making sure that it's getting what it needs and that you're not sacrificing your physical body's needs for somebody else. You know, you don't want to sacrifice your physical safety because somebody else has an expectation. It's just not worth it, and it's better to set a boundary and not go through with anything, you know? And that's sort of the light and the dark sides of feminism. The thing that makes feminism works is that you have to be very conscious in your relationships with men, and you have to be conscious about negotiating those boundaries and what feels comfortable for you. And how do you know what feels comfortable for you is maybe you have to slow down. You know, as much as we want to spend time chatting and hanging out with this person that may seem really attractive, is that you may actually need more time and more space to yourself to assess where you're really at, and do it in a calm space where you're thinking logically and not necessarily thinking. This is where I do think following your heart can really work for you in other situations in your life. But with personal life, sometimes we're so close to it that following our heart can be very tough. And it's actually easier to think logically, if that makes any sense. But our intuition, when it's finely tuned, can help us with our personal relationships. I think a lot of people struggle with this, and they think, my intuition just says, go, 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 let's get intimate, let's have fun, let's talk all night. But if you go a little deeper into your intuition, you're going to feel nudges that are a little bit more truthful, like if the person's really right for you. Maybe your emotional overtones are sending those messages, but deep down, you feel that this person is not really correct for you. And that's the deeper message that you're going for. Your intuition will never scream loudly in your face. Like when you're in love, your emotions are kind of screaming loudly in your face. So that's not your intuition. Your intuition usually has a more quiet and subtle message that's underneath those obvious thoughts or obvious emotions. And that's how you know that it's real and you can trust it and it's sending you the right message. I hope you all found this very helpful and useful as women to assess what you want to do in relationships. But of course, I am available for consulting if you want a more detailed analysis of your particular situation. And I think this advice works well for men too, is to just take time for yourself, take things slowly and assess where you're going and think things through before you get too involved or too deeply with somebody, you know. And if you're taking time to self-reflect and think logically about a situation, you're probably not going to go wrong. You're probably going to have a good experience. Hope you're all having a wonderful day and take care. Bye now.